the curse of forever, when immortality becomes the end of meaning? What if I told you that the one thing you've been taught to fear, death, is actually the very thing that gives life its beauty? And what if I told you that the thing we secretly wish for, immortality, could become the most dangerous illusion of all? I know it sounds like the reversal of everything we've ever believed. We think death is the enemy. We think that to never die would be the ultimate victory. But what if that victory came at a cost far greater than we could bear? Let's begin with this. We love because things end. We cherish moments because they pass. We hold each other close not because we think it will last forever, but because we know it won't. That's what gives it weight. That's what makes it real. The finality of life puts fire in our hearts, urgency in our touch, reverence in our time. But imagine a world where you never die. You live on endlessly. Decades become centuries. Centuries become millennia. And slowly, without realizing it, everything begins to unravel.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
You wake up one day and realize that time has lost its meaning. There are no more lasts, no more goodbyes, no more endings. And because of that, there are no more beginnings either. There's no reason to rush. No reason to leap. No reason to say I love you today when you can say it 10,000 years from now. The urgency is gone. The pulse of life, its beating heart, is silenced by endless time. And here's the tragedy we don't see. Without death, love becomes weightless. Because love is not just about presence, it's about the preciousness of presence. The knowing that this moment matters because it's finite. That this person matters because they won't be here forever. That this breath matters because it might be your last. So let me ask you a question that may haunt you in the best way possible. If you could live forever, would you still fall in love the same way? Would you still hold someone like they were irreplaceable if you had eternity to find someone else? There's a reason we cry at funerals, not just from pain, but from meaning. Because death makes the life that came before it sacred. It draws a line. It says, this mattered. It gives context to every laugh, every fight, every shared silence. It tells us this is real, and it's not coming back. Now imagine you don't die. You live through generations. You watch the people you love fade while you remain. You make new friends, build new families, and lose them too, over and over, until something inside you begins to harden, not out of cruelty, but out of exhaustion. You start protecting yourself from attachment, because it hurts too much to love what you'll eventually lose. And slowly, immortality becomes isolation. That's the hidden cost, the emotional erosion, the slow, quiet decay of meaning. Because to love fully, you have to be willing to lose. And when you can't lose anymore, when nothing can be taken from you, then nothing means anything anymore. You may think at first, no, I'd use my immortality for good. I'd learn everything, become a master of every art, every science. And yes, for a time you would. But eventually, mastery becomes monotony. Curiosity becomes numbness. Even awe fades when it becomes infinite. Because wonder needs contrast. It needs limits. It needs edges to lean against. We are not wired for endlessness. We are wired for depth. And depth requires limits. That's the paradox of the human experience. We crave more time, but it's the lack of time that makes life profound. Imagine a sunset that never ends. At first, it would be breathtaking. You'd stare in awe. But an hour in, 2 hours in, a day in, and you'd stop looking. Not because it stopped being beautiful, but because the beauty stopped being fragile. And without fragility, beauty becomes background noise. Now think about the people you love most. What makes your time with them meaningful? It's not just their presence, it's the awareness that your time together is finite. That one day the chair will be empty. One day the laugh will be an echo. And because of that, you lean in, you look deeper, you love harder. But what happens when that awareness disappears? When you know they'll always be there? When you'll always be there? Suddenly the sacredness fades. The urgency dissolves, and you find yourself floating in a life without gravity. That's what immortality really is. Not just endless life, but life without gravity. A drifting existence where nothing is ever lost, and therefore nothing is ever truly found. So let me ask you another question. What if death wasn't the flaw in the system, but the design that makes everything matter? Maybe we've been running from the very thing that gives our lives their soul. Maybe we've been praying for escape, when what we need is presence. Because when you know something will end, you show up. You listen deeper. You forgive faster. You speak truer. And maybe that's the real meaning of life, not to escape death, but to live so fully that death has nothing left to take. Think about the most powerful moments of your life. Were they perfect? No. Were they permanent? Definitely not. But they were alive. Fully, deeply, achingly alive. Because you knew somewhere in your bones that they wouldn't last. And that's what made you feel them. Now imagine a life without those moments. A life where everything stretches endlessly forward. No endings, no beginnings, just more, always more, until more becomes meaningless. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a spiritual warning. Because if we chase immortality without understanding the cost, we may find ourselves in a world where nothing is sacred anymore. A world where we've conquered death, but lost the reason to live. So what do we do with this insight? We stop fearing death as the villain, and we start honoring it as the silent architect of meaning. We stop fantasizing about forever, and we start falling in love with now, with the people in front of us, with the breath in our lungs, with the story that we're writing not in spite of its ending, but because of it. Because true immortality doesn't come from living forever. It comes from living so deeply that your love echoes long after you're gone, or from creating moments that outlive your body, from being so present, so real, so full of soul, that your life becomes a sacred flame in the hearts of others. That's what death gives us. The chance to light that flame, the pressure to matter, the gift of urgency, the miracle of meaning. So maybe, just maybe, never dying could destroy everything you love, not because it takes it away, but because it takes away the reason to love it in the first place. The immortal trap, why eternity without loss is a prison for the soul. There's something seductive about the idea of forever. We imagine it as ultimate freedom, endless time to explore, to create, to love. But what we never ask is this: what happens when nothing ends? When every choice loses its weight because there's always another chance, another lifetime, another redo? That's where the trap begins. Immortality sounds like liberation, but in truth, it can become a prison. Not a physical one, but a spiritual one. Because when nothing ends, nothing matters. When everything lasts, nothing is urgent. And without urgency, the soul begins to forget its purpose. Think about choice. What gives a choice power? It's the fact that choosing one path often means letting another go. Love gets its depth from commitment. Art gets its power from risk. Meaning comes from the willingness to pour your heart into something knowing it might not last. But if you had eternity, literally infinite chances, why choose it all? Why love now when you could love later? Why create now when you could create after 100 more years of thinking about it? This is the great paradox. The more time you have, the less you feel the need to use it. And slowly your fire dims, your passion fades. Not from lack of desire, but from the absence of limitation. Now ask yourself this deeply uncomfortable question. If you knew you would never die, would you still care about today? Would you still chase your dream with the same hunger? Would you still forgive the people who hurt you? Would you still take the risk, make the leap, say the thing you've been scared to say? Or would you push it off again and again because there's always more time? That's the trap. Immortality doesn't just stretch time, it dilutes it. And in the dilution, we lose the sharpness of living. Life becomes a blur, a fog, a slow drift through moments that no longer pierce the heart. And here's the part we rarely talk about. Without death, we lose the sacredness of human connection. Think about grief. As painful as it is, grief is also proof that something mattered. It's the echo of love. It's the soul saying, this was real. But if nothing ever ends, if no one ever leaves, then grief fades. And so does the depth of love that caused it. We may still feel affection. We may still enjoy companionship. But we lose the ache, and the ache is what makes us human. It's what makes us hold each other tighter. It's what makes a goodbye so crushingly beautiful. Without that, we risk becoming emotionally weightless beings drifting through relationships without roots. So what do we do with this? We remember that death is not the failure of life, it's the frame of life. It gives it shape. It gives it contrast. It gives it meaning. And in recognizing that, we stop craving forever. We stop chasing the illusion that more time will solve our fear. Time doesn't heal fear. Presence does. Courage does. Living fully right now with the knowledge that this moment is unrepeatable, that's where our power returns. That's where our soul ignites. Because the truth is, we don't need eternity. We need intensity. We need depth. We need the kind of life that burns so brightly, so briefly, that it lights the way for everyone who comes after us. And that kind of life isn't found in immortality. It's found in intimacy with impermanence. The divine goodbye, why letting go, is the secret to eternal love. There's a sacred tension at the heart of everything we love, the knowing that it won't last. And instead of ruining the experience, that impermanence deepens it. You see, every goodbye holds within it the seed of eternity, not because it lasts forever, but because it touches the part of you that does. I think of the most beautiful moments you've ever had, the ones that made your chest ache, the ones that brought tears without reason. They passed, didn't they? And yet they live inside you. Not as memory alone, but as essence. That's the paradox. What we release with love never truly leaves. But what we cling to, we lose. We've been taught to hold on, to preserve, and to make things last. But love, real love, isn't about possession. It's about presence. And presence requires letting go. Not because we don't care, but because we care so deeply we want to meet life as it is, not as we demand it to be. You can't truly love someone if your love is based on them staying the same forever. You can't truly live if you're constantly trying to freeze time. That's why the soul doesn't fear endings. The soul knows that endings are how more of itself is revealed. The ego fears death. The soul sees through it. And in that seeing, it learns to trust the rhythm of life, not as a straight line, but as a sacred spiral of beginnings, endings, and rebirths. Now let's turn this inward. What are you still holding on to because you're afraid it will end? A relationship? A version of yourself? A dream that doesn't fit anymore? What if the very thing you're afraid to let die is the thing blocking your next becoming? We think that by holding on, we're preserving meaning. But in truth, meaning is born through surrender. You don't find truth by clenching harder, you find it by opening. Letting what wants to leave, leave. Letting what wants to arrive, arrive. And trusting that what is real will never abandon you, it will transform you. This is the spiritual art of the divine goodbye. It's not about walking away. It's about walking with grace. It's about being so present, so open-hearted, that you can witness the full life of a thing, its rise, its fall, its evolution, and remain rooted in love the entire way. That's the kind of love that doesn't fear death, because it knows death is not the loss of love. It is love's return to the formless. And if we can meet that moment not with resistance, but with reverence, we unlock a kind of immortality that no body, no time, no mind could ever hold. So here's the final question. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to make anything last and instead focused on making everything sacred? Would you speak more gently? Would you forgive more quickly? Would you create from your soul, not your fear? Would you finally say the things you've kept buried because you thought there would always be more time? Because here's the truth, you don't need more time. You need more truth. You need more presence. You need to live like everything you love will end, not in dread, but in devotion. Because when you live like that, you don't just pass through life, you become life. You become the presence that makes everything holy. You become the flame that lights up every room. You become the echo that lives in others long after your story is done. And that is the kind of immortality that doesn't destroy what you love. It protects it. It honors it. It makes it count. So don't waste your energy trying to escape death. Use it to show up for life. Let things end. Let people go. Let yourself grow. And when the time comes to say goodbye, say it with your whole heart. Because in that goodbye, you are writing the most beautiful part of the story.